Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. So we just, got hammered here in Lake Tahoe. It's been pretty incredible, the amount of snow that we've gotten. But it is what it is. I think I've shoveled about somewhere around 9 feet of snow over the last week or so. So it's going to be pretty impressive, I think, going forward as far as like the amount of snow that we're going to get. Now, you might remember I said last year in my predictions that this winter would be uh, exceptional, more than usual. And I said several weeks ago that we would have all of the reservoirs filled. Guess what? The reservoirs are already filled, right? So it's they had in some places in California, they had in the last 7 days, they had more than they usually have all year long. And that's in San Francisco. Normally, they have so many inches. And San Francisco is not a dry city by any stretch of imagination. They get some pretty good range there, but in 7 days. So I showed in on my X uh, platform that I took some snow because the snow is like strange. And Tracy did the same thing. She took a snowball. And it was hard to make the snowball, right? It's all real unusually fluffy, kind of like styrofoam, right? And so we had to like really crank to make a snowball. I was going to make a snowman, but it was like, and it should have been wet snow because a lot of that snow that came in, our temperatures were around 39 to 19 degrees, somewhere in between that. But with the 39-degree temperature, you should be getting wet snow, heavy snow. So we were shoveling it. She made a little ball of snow. She took a lighter to it, and it started getting black. Right? It didn't melt. And so I got inspired. I was like, I'm gonna try that too. So I took, like I said, it was hard to make a snowball. And once I had compacted it, I took a lighter to it, one of those flamethrower lighters, and I took it to it, and it just barely moved anything. There was no like water dripping from it. It just got compacted a little bit at a time. And it was like the heat basically it retracted from the heat into the snowball instead of like melting. So strange anomalies. Now, I don't know if all of it's like that. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that there is some wetness in there, and I can tell you there is because we get icicles, so there is water in there. And when the like right now, you see it's pretty bright out there. When the sun comes out, it melts the snow and the ice pretty quick. But you see on the trees behind me, they're still pretty fluffy with snow. But over the next probably today and tomorrow, because we're supposed to have sunlight for about the next 5 to 6 days before the next winter storm comes. So we'll see that the pine trees basically shake it off, and shake off their white coat and start absorbing the sun again. So it's pretty cool to watch that process. Um, Try burning it. Yep, aluminum snow. I know. Seems to be some in there, right? Because this was a Pineapple Express, and we know where the Pineapple Express comes from. It comes from Hawaii, where the U.S. military seized those islands long ago from the Queen of Hawaii and made her sign off the Hawaiian Islands to the United States. And they make us believe, and the story is that she wanted to do that, but it's 111 right now, so that's the angelic number. So I guess they're like saying yes. Very sad about Hawaii. They've taken over. The Democrats have basically taken over Hawaii. We know that the Hawaiians, they've gone and saved their culture, kind of like the Peruvians did when the Spanish showed up and forced the Catholic Church down their throats. And so Pachamama and all their, religious beliefs and so forth, they went underground with them. Not literally, but figuratively. And you can still encounter some of that if you have the right people that know how to contact those people, and they'll come out and do ceremonies with you. It's pretty cool. So, and Hawaiians are the same way. Hawaiians basically just went underground pretty much with their culture, and they're waiting for when the U.S. military is gone at some point. So I don't know when that's going to be, probably not anytime soon, but at some point, I believe they're going to get thrown off. All right. So in the meantime, well, let's look at some of the things that are going on in the world. So I'm gonna share the screen. I got a lot of stuff now. Later, Juan was scheduled to come on at 1. He's supposed to come on around 1:30. He got held up with some other stuff. So I'm just going to do a few things. When he shows up, we'll bring him in and we'll discuss a lot of stuff, I'm sure. So just be flexible on the time. That's what we've learned to do with Juan. Juan will show up when Juan shows up because he's a very busy man. All right. But we love to have him. And I remember like 5, 6 years ago almost when we started doing our first shows. It was shortly after I went live with my YouTube. My YouTube channel blew up. We would have thousands and thousands of people show up. And our last show, we had a pretty good number. So I'm hoping that at some point with this new YouTube channel or an old YouTube channel that they took down, and I protested recently, I think about 6 months ago or so. Yeah, can I have that channel back? I think you guys took that. That wasn't fair. And they're like, you know what? You're right. Here you go. You got it back. But we're gonna be watching you. So I know they watch me, and they do things behind the scenes, slow down the numbers of people that are subscribing. Now, in the chat, I see some of you, are glad I'm back on YouTube. It's a really good platform. It can be shared around the world. A little bit easier than Rumble, and and I even had problems in Rumble, but it is what it is. Yes, Mary. Juanito, Juanito, Juanito. Can you hear me, Juanito? Come in, Juanito. So we'll have Juanito on pretty soon, and we'll discuss a lot of stuff. But back in the early days of YouTube, we were discussing stuff that was really cutting edge. And I remember when I got this YouTube channel back, and Juan came in on one of, not too long after. He talked about or he told me behind the scenes that because I asked him, I said, are we getting our free speech back? Is that why I'm on here and can talk like this again? And he's like, yes. So Juan is amazing, with the insights that he has. Not only does he have a very scientific mind, intel side, which he's very versed in, and then of course the political side, where he has contacts and all the way up to the top, and military. I know he's worked with a lot of my SEAL team bros, current and former. So it's kind of cool to see, and he has a scientific historical mind. So all of those come in when he has a conversation, and religious. So he has incredible mind. So he brings a lot of these things into the conversation every time he comes in. Uh, so it'll be good. It'll be good going forward. All right, so let's look at my X account. So my X account is growing more than it ever was. More because I kind of went into X or Twitter at the time, a little bit after it became very popular to go on there. And I was like, I got all the Facebook. I was early into Facebook. And I was doing live shows on Facebook, and then I went live on YouTube. But X was kind of like a secondary thought. Instagram, I did stuff on Instagram. Instagram wasn't all that great either. It seemed like they were restricting me too. Facebook started restricting me. So X completely took me down. Twitter completely took me down. Same time that they took President Trump on, and hundreds, thousands of other people that were of my genre, uh, the uh, the good side, I call it. So the white hats. So we, have come back, and the X account has really grown strong. I'm very pleased. It's starting to move towards 100,000 subscribers, which is kind of peanuts for some of the other influencers that didn't get kicked off. Fortunately for them, were able to continue and built their channel somehow within that restrictive environment. So good for them. I've always been, I just blow it up out there, and that's what I will continue to do. Now, I'm all over the map when it comes to information. As you guys know, a lot of you guys have been following me for 7, 8 years. Back when I talk about where I was in, Facebook, doing lives in Facebook and doing courses, the Intuitive Warrior channel that I had for a while, and intuitive, courses and all that kind of stuff. So, a lot of you have been following me for a long time, and uh, I remember when YouTube channels would get taken down, it was like we're like family, Of course, we don't know each other, face to face, but it is a family, and it was very disappointing to me when they would take that down because it was like I was losing, family. And of course, some people figured out, finding me again because I'd have to change a name to like hide from YouTube. I'd come in from different names and all this and different stuff. But I've always done, uh, I've always been way outside the box, all the way since I was a little boy, right? Family thought I was weird. I know probably a lot of you that have been watching me for a while, like my family thought I was weird too. But I've always been outside the box on a lot of stuff in the military, as a SEAL and all the way to the top, in the CIA and all the way to the top. So some of the reasons why I believe I reached those pinnacles is because of I'm so outside the box that I can, look at things and go, we can do things a better way, right? Now, I look at other people that do this. You guys know that I predicted last year that we'd have lots of earthquakes, big earthquakes this year, lots of, there would be a tsunami, which we had a tsunami. We had a massive earthquake in Russia on one of their islands, and we had some in um, Japan that, not as big as the earthquake and not as big as tsunami, but the one from Russia and the island chain basically sent a tsunami, believe it or not, in one spot, a couple of spots of the U.S., which was the biggest recorded tsunami that it ever had, ever in recorded history. Of course, it goes back. We can look at history and see that there were some really really big tsunamis that have hit the West Coast in the past. So uh, these predictions that I do is from everyone has disability. And these predictions that I do, which I try and teach everybody, and a lot of you guys have started to, many of you are on the same level, I think. I've trained a lot of people over the years, and just doing these shows, watching me, you start to connect as well. So that's one of the beautiful things about doing these shows is we're growing, we're in a renaissance of consciousness. And as more and more people start to accept, the capabilities that are within all of us, we can push out this evil group that is constantly trying to manipulate us and trying to turn what would be a normal, natural, event into something much bigger. Directing energy weapons at HARP and directed energy weapon, microwave energies, and so forth at some of these places uh, that are getting ready to pop and making them worse than they are. All right. So consciousness can have a calming effect. And we've talked about this for a while. And I think it has been having that effect on a lot of stuff. So let's look at one of the things that I'm looking at right now. And this is on my X account. So as you see right here in my X, there's an earthquake prediction. So let's watch this a little bit. So you get a little feel of what I do. There's other people that are out there doing it. And this particular group, Earthquake Prediction, they seem fairly accurate. So I'm not feeling at this time a really, really big one, but there could be something that shakes things up. And these guys are predicting the energies that we're having in California right now are bringing these massive storms. So I saw this coming over a year ago, and here we are. And of course, I'm going to make another prediction here pretty soon about next year. But this is some of the things that all of us have, and here's other people that are doing it.
All right, good afternoon. This is Luke Thomas Holmquist here at the QuakePrediction.com, the Earthquake Forecast Center. It's 5:26 in the afternoon in California. And first, before we get to the warning for the large earthquake in Southern California near LA, let's do a quick review of our last video. We are forecasting a strong earthquake to hit in California. Our magnitude has always been a very difficult part of the forecast. And we're forecasting a strong quake to hit. Let's look at the actual maps here. So here was the forecast. You can see it here in the highest risk was here in the eastern part of the San Francisco Bay. And all we got was, well, not all we got, it was a 3.7 hit the San Francisco Bay in the eastern part there, where that 98% risk was. Also, we had a swarm of 11 earthquakes above 2.5 in that warning area. In that same video, we forecasted a 5.5 to 6.0 earthquake to hit in Japan and a 7.6 earthquake hit in the 95% risk area. And then we said also, look out during the next few days in Alaska, we could get a 7.5 quake. Well, a 7.0 quake hit in southeastern Alaska, just I believe a 20.
So as you guys can see, these guys are picking the areas where the earthquakes are coming. They look at energy, and that's something that I've done over time as well. I feel the energy, and then I look at what's coming, and I get from my mind as my mind interprets it. So the analytical process of taking these intuitive, hits that come through is not always extremely accurate, like these guys are talking about. They're saying that the energy is ramping up in this area, and we should see this level of earthquake, but their predictions are either too high or too low. But their accuracy is right on.
4 hours later, after that video. And then on December 26th, a 5.6 earthquake hit exactly in our 95% risk area. We were forecasting a strong earthquake to hit in northern Japan. It hit exactly as forecasted. Also, there's one in Greece that hit. It was 5 point something. So this forecast model is working better and better as we do more research. 21 years of research and 358,000 followers on social media. Let's take a look at the current warning map. This is the one for today and tomorrow. Usually the quake will hit kind of toward the end of this forecast period. This is the 26th to the 27th. We're looking for about a 5.0 earthquake in the San Francisco Bay during the next about 24 hours. Then you can see that risk begins to extend down into Los Angeles for the 27th and the 28th of December. And our risk graphs are indicating a peak for this quake here, about a 5.0 quake. And then this quake, this energy that's moving from, it's very high in the San Francisco Bay still, but in Northwest LA here on the 27th to 28th, and then a lot of risk there right in Ventura County and Los Angeles County on the 28th, central Washington down into Oregon. Again, QuakePrediction.com, you can check these maps out. But right now we are looking at a very, well, here we just got a 1.0, very tiny little earthquake in San Francisco Bay, but it's been very quiet before the storm. So looking for a strong earthquake to hit 5.0 about in San Francisco Bay during the next 24 hours.
So we're kind of in that window right now. So at any moment, potentially could be seeing a 5.0 plus in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we'll see. You can forecast out, like I said, my forecasts are usually extremely accurate, but not perfect. So as I tune into these energies more and more, and also I will tell you that it's becoming difficult to predict, these events going forward because of the consciousness of humanity, guys. This is a very, very positive thing that's transpiring on Earth.
And then during the next 72 hours, 6.2 to 7.2 earthquake is likely in California, most likely in the San Francisco Bay. No, I'm sorry, most likely in Northwest Los Angeles.
All right. So again, areas where we've seen tremendous amounts of energy. There was a lot of rain that was dumped in the LA Basin area there. So a lot of energy came in, through San Francisco and into the area where I'm at. So we could very, very easily see something very significant, but we'll have to keep our, to watch and, just stay attuned to what's going on. All right. So other things, let's see, what has transpired over the last few days. This is Oppenheimer Ranch Project. I think this guy does a really, really good job as well. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Got 3 dead in catastrophic Christmas flooding in California. East Coast is bracing for heavy snow. We're going to get to that in just a moment. An atmospheric river that dumped rain on California most of the week was easing Friday as New York City and other parts of the Northeast could get nearly a foot of snow. Ho, ho, ho! Al Gore is a bore. 3 people were dead in California by Friday after major storms swept through the state, causing days of rain and flooding over the Christmas holiday. While in New York City, a storm was forecast to dump around a half a foot of snow. And the governor declares a state of emergency for 36 New York counties, including central New York. Take a look at that. That's going to be the Catskills. Live updates up to 8 inches of snow set for New York City and New Jersey. A state of emergency has been issued. While dangerous snowstorm is headed to NYC, well, holy macaroni. Good news, this atmospheric river in the west rapidly lifts reservoir levels across Northern California to full capacity. Remember when they told us 5 years ago that all these reservoirs were going to dry up? Yeah, I remember. Yeah. A major winter storm pummeling millions with the most snow in 4 years. And there we have it. And that's the system that's going to move through tonight. That's it. That's the most snow in 4 years. Can you believe that? I can't. But
all right. So these storms seem to. So when I came and I settled in California in South Lake Tahoe, I was predicting that there was going to be lots of snow because I was going to pull it in. So that year 2022 was like record-setting year. Lake Tahoe was very low. The lowest has been in, I don't know, 100 years or something crazy. And I was like, I'm gonna change that. So I remember I was in Vegas a couple months ago, and the guy was like, I asked him, I said, so, because there was a little bit of rain that was going on, and I said, so, what do you think about that rain? And do you think we're gonna have some more? Because I sometimes I test people, see where they're at, because I was already seeing that it was going to come. And he's like, nah, it's just an anomaly. We've been dry for a long time. It's going to continue. And so, not long after I talked to him, I came out and I put out that all the reservoirs in the Vegas and Hoover Dam behind there, all that's going to fill up completely. So It's interesting, like I said, when you start to tap in to these energies and the flow of the things that are going on, and you can actually start to direct those energies sometimes to be very positive. So that's what we're seeing, and we're going to see going forward, right? Because more and more of you guys are becoming active with this. All right. In the meantime, though, we have some problems. Now, I've said also that I see the Democrat Party completely going away. I've said this for years. I'm surprised it's still here, but I guess, the reveals take time. People take time to wake up, and it is a process. The process, I think, accelerates into the next year uh, at a very, very rapid pace. We're already seeing this happening now on a very rapid pace. And I think it's going to like pick up momentum because finally people are seeing through how corrupt and how evil the Democrat Party is across the board, guys. All right, so here is Tim Walz, and we know that there's a lot of things that are being revealed about the way the Democrats basically have been manipulating and stealing money, especially with the Somalis, who are basically a pirate culture. They brought them in just like they have a lot of Muslims in a lot of different places throughout the United States, to be their manipulators and their stealers of income from those of us that don't like for our income to be stolen. Uh, and it's being exposed. So here is Governor Walz basically going to give away more of Minnesotans' money to people that don't deserve it.
Insurance program for you that allows you again to take care of what you need to take care of without being forced to choose between your family, your bonding with your child, your own health, and your economic well-being. Because in Minnesota, you can do both, and we've proved that time and time again.
So what they found is the Somali the the Somalis are basically stealing on an unbelievable level, and it's being exposed. So this is being exposed in other states as well, California, Vermont, all the states, I think, at some point, because Democrats are in every state. So this is the Democrat plan, guys, to basically steal money, collapse our system through this steal process, which was well underway under the Biden administration. And fortunately for the Trump administration, it's being turned around, it's being exposed, and the Democrat Party will go away. All right. And I'm not being like cute with it. They will go away completely. It's not going to be like, yeah, Mike, yeah, we'll see. You'll see. All right. So you'll see. Uh, Definitely, yeah. Someone's saying in here 9 billion. And I think that's going to be a lowball number, how much has been stolen over the years. And all of these people, like Ilhan Omar, her income, I guess, increased to 30 million. Uh, we've seen this with a lot of people in Congress, Republican and Democrat. Uh, we, they, some people have said she needs to be deported because she married her brother to, illegally come into in America. I'm like, well, that might have been at the time something that would have been done, but at this point, she's committed horrendous crimes and been part of other groups committing horrendous crimes. She needs to go to penitentiary for as long as they can determine, that she should be there, right, from her crimes. And then if she lives to the end of her sentence, then instantly from the moment that she's done her sentence, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is, she goes in a plane that's waiting for her and gets flown to Somalia, dropped off with never, ever given the opportunity to come back to America. So this is what needs to happen to all these Somalis that came and stole from us, right? And we're going to see this from a lot of Muslim groups, right? Because they've just been, figureheads for coming in and stealing. And I think that's one of the things we're going to see going forward. These Somalis and other groups that came in and stole from us, they're going to get, you're going to get hammered, guys. So we're going to bring in Juan, and we'll talk about some very interesting things. So Juan, I was basically promoting you before the show, how you're like, you have basically all of these insights, and it's incredible. So you have you rub shoulders with the greats, business people at the very top, political people at the very.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, yeah, I had a meeting that I had to finish here. And so they just left a moment ago. And so now I'm free to finish up. They brought me some ice cream chocolate here. So, uh, there's so much going on behind the scenes that down the road we'll get a chance to talk more.
Well, hopefully we get to talk more, but you're basically filtered out right now, Juan. We can't hear you.
And what's going to actually occur and what's not going to occur, but you have to go through the contacts, the steps to see what happens. And if you don't do that, there's a saying that I've taught guys all the time. You got to do the basics. The basics will kill you every time if you don't go through the basics and make sure that all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. That stuff will come back and bite you in the ass. And a lot of times you go through the basics. It's like walking around an aircraft and checking everything before you go. Thank you. And you have to do that because I was flying the border down in Texas, and we had a friend's helicopter, full French helicopter. Oh my God! And we were dropping somebody off. We'd been out flying for about 6 hours, and I said to the pilot, I wanted to inspection walk around. Well, he had done it before we left at the very beginning, and he wasn't going to do it at that time because we were essentially just had one more hop to go, and it was only about an hour away. And so I asked him to just walk me through it because I'm interested I enjoy machines and mechanics and all that. Walking around, he's telling me what he looks for and all the different parts. And on the tail rotor, I said, and he mentioned what he's looking for, and I said, like that. Oh shit! We had cracks in the tail rotor, and he hadn't seen them. And I saw him these micro cracks, and I looked a little closer. Every blade had these micro cracks on it, and I said, "Yeah, that looks like the kind of stuff." You probably would have made it through the next hop, but them. And I figured out later in another meeting with him, he's wearing reading glasses. Well, when you're looking for these things, he wasn't wearing his reading glasses. He's not seeing these micro cracks. He's not an old guy. He's probably in his 50s, but he had the operation done to have kind of the eagle eye stuff where he had sharper long range vision. Mm-hmm. And he was missing these micro cracks every single blade, and it had quite a few blades, those ones that are built in to the cowling, and they grounded the aircraft. It took like 3 months for them to do the repairs on it. That kind of a minor thing, take you out, you're all dead. And my friend, who's very, very, very wealthy, was kind of shocked by that. And because he would never have thought that somebody would miss this. And I just happened to catch it, just walk around the aircraft the way I did. It's the same with a lot of these other operations that we're involved in. A basic thing that everybody knows, you got to watch that. But guys get used to being in a flow, and it's not glaringly obvious, and it can take out some huge operations. So you got to do some of these in-person meetings. You got to review the details. It may sound repetitious. They told 10 other people, but you got to hear it one more time. There's so much happening just out of sight in the country right now that's so critical with where we're at. So anyway,
That's awesome. So do you ever run into Dr. Pete Chambers?
oh yeah, absolutely.
What do you think of his chances of making Texas governor?
Well, I will tell you this, where I'm at on a lot of these candidates,
Mm-hmm.
I have several folks that I really like who are deciding to jump in and mix it up. What I really like is that I've got a couple of people in one state that are running for the same office, not Texas, and they're each unique in their own way. What I like about it, though, is, and I've given them all the same information. I've told them that I've given them all the same information because they can at least have an intelligent conversation with the voters, and that they should all campaign on these exact same issues. Who's going to make it through to be the candidate for that primary office? Thank you, sir. Very much. All right.
306.
All right. With that in mind, I think they all, if they're out there talking to citizens and they're the good guys and they're, brother sharpens brothers, iron sharpens iron. If Chambers and if we have other candidates that we really like that are running for the same office, the best of the best, we get a better choice. It's like, like the presidency. One of the things that's really actually disturbing is if you say that the only person for the job is a president is Trump, then that's a very disturbing, dangerous thing from the standpoint that in this whole big country, we should have not just a few, we should have a couple dozen different folks that are so good, any one of them would make a great president. But the way the politics is run right now, anybody that smart probably wouldn't run because it's such a thankless moment, thankless job. And so, the only one that's willing to throw caution to the wind, take the hits all the different ways, and that still has some integrity is the one that has nothing to gain by it. Trump isn't, you think he's making something. What's he making it for? He's going to have a better life because he's president. Even his kids, are they going to have a better life because he's president? Keep your head down, stay out of sight, don't draw attention. Go make a fortune. Throw in with whoever happens to win, so you don't get targeted. That's the safe way. Trump didn't take safe. But we need others that are a bit more selfless also, that are in the mix for these high positions, the governors and like that. So I think what Pete Chambers is doing and some of these other folks that have thrown their hat in the ring, very honorable, because these are tough jobs, thankless jobs at this point in time, especially. If you're doing it, you're probably doing it just out of a sense of obligation, as a citizen. Does that click for you? Am I saying it the right way?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's absolutely should be merit-based. So we want them all to, come out and give their ideas of what they're going to do and what they have in store if they get elected. I've had him on my show. He seems to have a really good plan that's better than anything I've ever seen from anybody else. But that could inspire some other people to come up with even better plans. So yeah, absolutely, we should really have the best of the best reach the top.
Well, the other thing is that, when guys get out and they duke it out,
yeah,
we want to have some of the conversations are not fights to the death.
right.
They're competitive, trying to get to the best answer, say for Texas or some of these other states, and you have the conversation. Um, and like you said, to come up with the best plan. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen here where if you talk it out, one guy's got one point, the other guy's got another point, you start working through it, and all of a sudden you come up with a little bit better plan. Sometimes guys that run for high office, the guy that was a competitor but was still a team player ends up becoming the guy you want to appoint to
Yep.
some aspect of the government as you come in. You're duking it out, but at some point you decide to make this up. Sorry. Oops, sorry. Just got to sign a check here for him. Gossip.
You look if he's okay.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, no problem. All right, so you go. Thank you. So I think that's that this 20. Well, let me get. Oh, okay. So here's one thing. How many times do you see really high profile people and they come together and they have to do a meeting? And so then you got to come up with an excuse for what the meeting is actually really about. Because the media is going to be there, they're going to cover it, they're watching the movement, foreign governments are watching the movement of key administration officials. So you got to have a really good cover story to, for what you're really up to, right? So the president calls in a bunch of key people to be at a high profile meeting, and the press is assuaged and they do front page stories, and in fact, just to make sure it's a front page story, just attach Trump's name to it for any reason. It doesn't matter, just to get through the moment. So that satisfies everybody. If you're an intelligence officer in a foreign government, do you get snookered by that, or are you always looking to know, what else were they talking about? What was the real reason, especially with a Trump or something like that? Just because this is what was put out to the press and blah, blah, blah. Is that the rest of the reason, or was there a sneaky other reason why they were meeting? And what was that sneaky other reason? That's just basic 101. Foreign governments look at that stuff all the time. And so, Trump's on vacation at home with the family at Mar-a-Lago, big stuff's happening. How does he use that moment if high profile people are coming to him, and you can't hide it in DC in the same way when they come to Mar-a-Lago? What could he be talking to? Secretary of Defense, Department of War, whatever you want to call it, and other key people. What could be going on behind the scenes, right in plain sight, that is bigger, that you need to cover it? There's something going on. Something's up. And I'm trying to help the American people understand this. I guarantee you, Russia and China, all the other intelligence agencies are not accepting what's on the front of the newspaper. They understand something else is up. So I'm just telling you, something else is up. Watch, pay attention. So.
That's intriguing. So, we're watching. I know everybody's, interested in silver, because we've talked about it quite a bit, and
Yeah.
you have done an amazing job of outlining it. I think the silver manipulation is what's coming undone, and this is part of a bigger picture of taking down this dark ball.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at China, basically. It seems China is now starting to run the price of silver to a very exceptionally high level, which we talked about would come at some point. And here we are.
They're not exporting. They have a hard date, January 1st, no more exports of silver out of China.
Mhm.
But they actually stopped exporting, because they bring in mining stuff, concentrate from all over the world.
Yep.
That has been a big part of what China's been doing for the last couple of decades.
Mhm.
They bring in all these concentrate, and then they refine it down to, high grade finished product for not just their own industry, but for sale to get hard currency out of the rest of the world. And so that hard currency is super important to them. They need that, dollars, Japanese yen, things like that. But the silver is such a strategic metal now, so many different ways, especially on the chips for the servers and things like that. You don't have silver, you're dead in the water. So let me use an example. When we were taking down the Soviet Union, there was a certain point where uh, one of the team got offered, because we were dealing with essentially the mobs inside of Russia. And we weren't giving them hard currency anymore. We were giving them back rubles with just a little bit of hard currency, which was driving them crazy. It's like getting a drug addict, locked into the good stuff. And then you're giving them less and less quality, and they have to take more and more of it just to get by. So anyway, we were giving them more and more rubles back and less marks, Deutsche marks, yen, Brazilian bola, etc. And so they had to have more and more of that to cover their position. China has been sending the silver out. They're not sending the silver out now. They're keeping it all in country. And the rest of the world is starving for that silver for their projects, especially as, there's new technology. People are talking a lot about the Samsung battery. That's a lot of good PR publicity on that. But there's other technologies out there also that require high volumes of silver because it's a great conductor of energy, current. And so on a number of fronts, this next wave of technology is going to rely on rare earth minerals because of magnetization and the ability to pass a magnetic field, hold it, for field effect, different materials, and silver falls within that for conductivity. So everybody wants to hold on to what they have, and there's not a lot of mines that are doing specifically just silver. It's not. Right. It has been a low cost, low return type thing. Mexico's got the most. Peru's got a bunch. We actually have lots of silver here in America, lots.
That's right.
But it takes time.
Right.
To spool up a mine, and most of them aren't set up for that. It's permits, things like that. So, for example, on stuff that within some of my groups we have our permits current, so that gives us we're way ahead of everybody else. And then we have huge production facilities that have been kept viable. So turning on is going to be a lot easier than for some other people. Some have already turned on, but that's not the norm.
Right.
The norm is most of the mines are defunct. They don't have any current equipment. Even there, here's the other thing that people don't realize. The difference between a great mining company and a horrible one isn't the quality of the ore or the deposit, or the mapping of where that's at, because you can have a spot where there's veins, different places. You miss the vein by a little bit, and you've missed the whole thing. You spent $1 gazillion and you're off target. So knowing exactly what you have and where it's at is a big deal too. So the problem is coming up with great mining managers. That's a skill that it's like coaching in any of the big teams. The right coach with the right players, you got a winning team. You can have the perfect players, the wrong coach, the wrong strategies, and you got crap. So a mining manager, a mining team is a very big deal. And you don't really get that instantaneously. It takes a little time working together, work through all this stuff to get to the right combination, the right attitude and all that. All of that takes, generally years farm teaming and coming up through the ranks and working through all the details. And then you could have a great mining manager for mines, say in Africa, that you try to use the same personnel here in the United States, and they don't quite mesh. The equipment's different, the mentality of the workers is different. So they don't really move site to site that well. You need to have a team in place that kind of knows everything works, what the logistics are. All of that takes serious time. You're in a silver short squeeze, but the short squeeze in this case isn't a few months. The short squeeze in this case is probably, in a perfect world, 4 to 5 years. Most of the experts would tell you 10, but if you get into a wartime condition, that can compress a lot. Even if, for example, you have stuff where you've kept stuff fairly current like we have, and we think we can do a lot of stuff in 18 to 24 months that'll take other people 5 to 10 years. It's still 18 to 24 months. And then that's way ahead of everybody else. So we have a global short squeeze on a number of strategic components. But let me just add this. Coming up to speed on rare earth, everybody knew that was coming.
Yep.
And that has been, you've really got about a 3-year head start. And it's, rare earths aren't as rare as people think. They're all over the place. It's just that they're hard to refine. And it takes a lot of infrastructure to get enough quantity to make it workable. Silver, nobody was really getting ready for this on an industry side.
Right.
Speculators knew that it was going to break for quite a while, but and by the way, if you look, when I released the 2023 Megador coin, literally the day that we released was the low point and starting up on the price of silver, literally the day.
Wow.
Back in October 2023. So, because I was trying to draw attention to where this was going to go. From this point forward, there is, just open turf. You can't go fast enough to go with what the need is going to be over time, because it's not just that you're trying to help with the speculators. It's not that you're just trying to help with some jewelry dealers and like that. It's an industrial metal, and it's being used every day. And the markets were conned with paper silver, keeping the price of the real silver suppressed, including for industry, especially for China, and to be able to get that material on the cheap. That's going to change. Tariffs are changing it to favor returning to mining here in the U.S. and do it on a crash course basis. It is going to, this market is going to be not just the next few years. It's literally following or trailing technological advances that will continue to increase the need for silver exponentially for decades and decades and decades. And there's no secret way to bypass the need for silver, because there really isn't anything else that cost-wise, even at costs 10 times higher than what silver is right now, the materials available won't beat silver. For example, let me just add this. Platinum and palladium. Most people missed what happened in platinum and palladium over the last several weeks and months. They moved percentage-wise with silver. So as you saw by percentage of cost or value, the value of silver go up. You also saw it with platinum and palladium. They've been moving shoulder to shoulder. Why? Because they're also used as industrial metals for certain types of conductivity, etc. So you have a race within these particular types of metals to fill gaps based on technology. It's not going away. The world's changing, morphing. Instead of needing steel for skyscrapers and ships and boats and things like that, you need titanium. You need uh, oh a number of other materials that are very expensive, costly to get to do it. And then silver is really at the base position of all of that, and they're all moving together. So anyway, yeah, mining stocks are not a bad investment. Do you know that mining stocks were the only stocks as a group that stayed stable all through the Great Depression, from day one all the way into World War II and beyond. The mining stock stayed stable when everything else went through all sorts of gyrations and turmoil and like that. So, just food for thought.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up because, in the past we've spoken about this and you said it wasn't time for mining stocks. So over the last month or so, I've delved into the mining stocks as I know that they're like you're talking about. They're going to blow up and they're going to really start to move very aggressively higher. Still kind of like slowly moving up, but they'll as well. Now a question to you. You said that Britain still controls a lot of our economic system.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you
Oh
look
my
at
God. The war.
China, the China and the opium wars, and basically they said, no, you're going to pay for the opium that we're bringing to you in silver. So Queen Victoria, I think, turned into the biggest, drug dealer in the world at the time. 20% of Britain was, being built off of the Chinese opium war. And then in 1934, we had the Roosevelt administration basically ramp up the price of silver and create an arbitrage where all the silver was pretty much taken from China and then they were left hanging. So now we're seeing maybe the reverse that's happening with us. And I'm commending you because you saw this coming and you are ready to really start to promote the production of silver mining. So that's great. Thank you.
Well, just by the way, most people are unaware of it. Teddy Roosevelt, the family, like the Kennedys with the rum running and booze and all that, the Teddy Roosevelt family made its huge wealth off of the opium wars.
Wow.
And virtually unknown fact in the modern era.
Your history is amazing. I love it.
So, well, but the other thing is this: who's really running China? At the end of the day, China is being run in large measure by the banks, and then there's these families. Where did George Bush Sr. go in the early '70s when Nixon was opening up China? And what's his name? The Secretary of State there. I can't believe I can't think of his name right now. They're all Bush people and they're all Rockefeller people. So George Bush Sr. goes to China as the business liaison to China for the United States. Now, the reason that's important is because we didn't have an ambassador to China because we were just opening up a relationship. So George Bush Sr. goes over there as the business liaison. Then he comes back to America as a businessman with Zapata Oil and like that. Kissinger, by the way. I can't believe I was losing that. And I have one of the last books signed by Kissinger dated. I think it's within like 2 weeks of his death. But Kissinger is negotiating with China, works the deal out for George Bush Sr. to go to China, be the business liaison, setting things up. Well, Kissinger was a huge Rockefeller person. He was created by David Rockefeller. His office was directly next door to David Rockefeller's office in New York. And when Nixon lost the Kennedy Nixon race for president, Nixon went and worked 2 doors down. It looked like it's a different building, different address, but the hallway went through the building in New York. On one side, it's one street address. On the other side, it's a different street address. But actually, their offices were about 100 feet apart. David Rockefeller's and Richard Nixon's. And in between was Kissinger's office. And they worked the deal to have George Bush Sr. Be the business liaison to China. And then when he finished that, he came back to the States. A conservative businessman was needed to settle things out after the church committee hearings and all the drama there with the CIA, Frank Church out of Idaho, by the way. And so they George Bush Sr. and is the head of the CIA. Supposedly no intelligence background, no intelligence agency background at all. Just a businessman coming in to help sort things out at the CIA and get them working right. Okay. Yeah, whatever. And then, of course, he comes up with the plan and gets it in the Carter administration to come up with the Senior Executive Service, which was put in place by Carter under executive order. The way he created the Air Force and the CIA in the first place, and then the Inspector General's offices. And that's the core to how money flows within agencies across the government is the Inspector Generals. They can turn it on and off like a spigot. No oversight, no anything. They're the last say. No congressional, stop or start answerability of any significance. SES with absolutely no legal oversight from any agency of government. They're the last word. Everything that's gone wrong that we're fighting right now goes to SES. And I'm going somewhere with this. SES is based on a model within the British system called Serco. And Serco is this unbelievably vast government management, continuity and government operation within the British Commonwealth. SES and Serco coordinate their activities between U.S. operations and British Commonwealth operations. Both of them headed and operated, just for the sake of a rapid, without going into the weeds for hours with your folks. They both tie into managing China and China assets and the best enemy money can buy. Helping China to improve its military and business models to compete with the West. Why am I saying this? This club, supposedly looking at continuity in government and keeping the flow of materials and business and things going on right around the world, from both sides has actually been managing China. Is China its own entity? A lot of what we think we're fighting with China, we're not actually fighting China. We're fighting the Brits. The Brits are running China, and the SES and Serco are tag teaming their operations for a globalist clan to use China to as a really strong enemy to force the West to do certain things politically, militarily, other things. China has all these low cost solar collectors and things like that they push out to the world, pushing the whole Green New Deal to help service the Brits with what they're doing, to turn off high efficiency, high density energy systems and turn on these very ultimately inefficient systems, as though that's where the world's going to go. We need vastly more power and connectivity, just like what you get with silver and like that at the technical level, at the machine level. The world runs on energy of all different types. And making us inefficient in the West in the way that we capture and use energy, high expense, is, like tying our legs together in a race. And we're trying to keep up with China and other stuff with our legs tied together. It's insane. We can do clean energy. It's all a crap thing. Look at what happened with Germany. I mentioned this before. Germany built an absolutely state-of-the-art modern nuclear energy plant. Got it in place. It took 20 years to design, get the permits, build, refine, get it all in place. It's running for 18 months. It's working fabulously. It's literally, you go through stages as you go up to full power to make sure everything's working right. They're literally ready to go to full power and be a huge help for Germany, cost, everything else for manufacturing. And at the last possible second, because of pressure out of Britain and the Green New Deal thugs, they stopped the whole thing. After it was shut down for a couple of years, they decided to sell it and dismantle it so it couldn't be turned back on. All the politicians got in on it. They dismantled the thing, sat up in parts and pieces on a dock in the Netherlands, and then was sold. A friend of mine bought it as scrap for all intents and purposes, and he's assembling it down in Egypt right now. But Germany needed that energy. Germany doesn't have that energy. Now you got a war with Ukraine and Russia cutting off the flow of oil there. They didn't get their pipelines in from Saudi Arabia through Turkey, or through Syria and into Turkey, and then into the European system for oil energy there. So you don't have it from Russia. You don't have it from Saudi Arabia. Europe is in a day-by-day more desperate situation. You can't run Europe on solar cells and wind generators. England benefits because they have the North Sea oil,
Right.
and they want to bring it in. Other players want to bring in the compressed natural gas, but you haven't quite got it there yet. The facilities to receive it aren't there. Europe's in a desperate energy situation, and it's all brought on by this whole Green New Deal crowd. A lot of that is tied into the same exact players going into China, helping promote China. China was going to bring in a Belt Road and bring in supplies from China to Europe and other places around the world. And the people that were actually running that, really all friends and buddies out of Serco and out of SES. And that's the fight that we have here in the West. Trump, Scott, and everybody else, is this fight with these shadow government operations. Here in the West, run. Every time Cheney had a fake heart attack, he was over at SES, laughed about it, saying he's running the shadow government, and he really was.
So Chiang Kai-shek in China, he was basically deposed, I think, because of the FDR administration stealing the silver, and they basically collapsed their economy. And then communists step in when that happens. Same thing happened in Russia. So you've talked about that, how we basically destroyed the Soviet Union, which is basically deep state activity. And now the Russians are involved. What do you think is going to happen with China? You think that's going to get that system that's taking control of China, the deep state, basically, I would say, is going to get dismantled or shut down somehow?
No.
China's
being helped to continue on this war path. And it's within kind of a broad idea that iron sharpens iron, brother sharpens brother. If you keep China sharp, it forces the West to continue to militarize and to prepare for battle and build up the war machine continuously. That favors these globalista immensely, and because they are set on a wartime economy and the high charges that you get in a wartime economy. Okay. No, yeah, it's fine. All right, good deal. Thank you. I was hoping to get another cup of coffee, but anyway, so China is being used by these globalista to force us to stay on a wartime setting, economy, businesses, etc. And that's why you need what's going on, for example, even in Ukraine with Russia, us supplying, the Brits supplying, to keep us, funding the war machine, if you will, new weapons, better weapons, etc. And Trump is playing with that game. If you're going to have to buy weapons, you can at least buy them from the West. So that's part of the whole point with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. If they were spending their billions on weapons out of France, England, Russia, China, then you're building up their war machine. He's forcing them to buy those weapon systems from us, which then, from a political standpoint, they have to stay on the right side of the U.S. or they get shut down. They get cut off from, their bombs, their upgrades for the aircraft, their maintenance, training, all sorts of things like that on these very complex, expensive weapons systems. So anyway, let me change rooms here, and they're gonna kick me out of my spot at the restaurant here. So let me just move to the next room over.
Yep.
So within all of that, at a core level,
So as Juan moves, we're going to probably lose him.
electrons.
There we go.
Yeah. Silver is the platinum going in cost.
So we lost Juan, so we'll wait for him to come back in. Hopefully we'll get a better connection. And what I'm going to do right now is change my own connection. So it's going to be a little bit of a blank because it seems like they sometimes NSA taps into what we're broadcasting from and disrupts it. So I'm gonna switch to another internet. So you're going to see me come and go, and so just be patient. All right. So what we're talking about is silver being used, I think, as a weapon, and they're trying to collapse the system here in the United States with silver, just like they did, like we were talking about in China, right? And China's now has lots of silver, and I think this is one of the things that they've done, for a long time. They've manipulated markets, they move money around, and eventually it becomes restrictive in some of these areas because there's not enough silver. And as you guys can see, silver is mandatory going forward for all these different new systems that are coming online. You got to have silver. So Juan, being involved with a group that saw this coming and are ready to basically really start to kick off the silver mining. And I've talked about this, how it's probably a good idea to be into a couple different silver mining stocks, SIL, which is a major silver miners, and then the SILJ, which is the junior miners. Junior miners, of course, being a little bit cheaper at this
There we
point.
go.
Yeah, great. We got you.
Yeah, 1 second here. Let me make sure I get this change screens here.
Sweet. So
Hold on, I'm trying to find you. Let's see here.
So I know South Africa has a really
There we
good.
go.
Oh, beautiful. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Excuse me. So South Africa also has a lot of mining as well, but it seems like they've been compromised, politically as well. And I know you've talked about that, and President Trump is leaning on them pretty hard. What do you see about South Africa going forward?
Well, the stage is set with this first year in a lot of categories. Venezuela is actually tied to South Africa. A lot of the drugs going into Europe were coming in through South Africa from Venezuela. Chinese were all through that. Chinese were all through the mining stuff going on across Africa. You had a bunch of billionaires in South Africa that were literally sending military teams into the Congo to do mining, especially of cobalt. And that cobalt was all being sold to China. So, but a number of other materials also. That is being attacked by the Trump administration. The preparations to do the heart attack are there. And even this strike in Nigeria that just happened in the Northwest area is tied to some of the warlords that were remotely running mining across Africa with some of their terrorist activities
Wow.
into the Congo and things like that. And virtually unknown within our community or anywhere in the West. One of the first things Trump did when he came into office, uh, in January, in February, as a first opening salvo to go after the warlords in Africa that were in charge of the mining and stuff like that, running the terrorist ISIS operations, the connections to Iran, etc. He got permission from the president of Somalia to do a strike in Somalia and took out one of the big warlords in their cave. And that warlord in Somalia was coordinating for terrorist activity in the U.S. with factions of their clan based out of Minneapolis and out of Michigan.
Wow.
And of course, we see this thing with all the fraud within the
Yeah.
activities up there in that Somali section in that north central U.S. And again, daycare is getting $100 million that's not going for any kids. There's no kids, and you got $100 million for daycare. Where's it going? Well, you've got people that are getting funding to build out terrorist operations inside the U.S. to take control of a huge swath of the country and to place them in duress in some larger operation. Again, unfortunately, and it's not something people want to hear, tied to senior executive service, continuity in government, and Serco. You have these agencies, what their goal is, if you go onto the website for SCS, is to provide continuity in government operations between elected administrations. And then working within a globalist theme, they're constantly fighting a bigger and bigger enemy. It's a shadow war run by a shadow government coordinating with other shadow governments to fight this invisible war and take authorities. And on that basis, they're doing false flags. Before we're done, what you're going to find out is that 9/11, the monster, Oklahoma City, other operations, specific names that everybody here can guess, but I don't feel like getting into a pissing match on lawsuits. But other big ones that big money's been paid to shut people up and to fine them and to force them not to look under the hood what's going on here. That they're tied into these global operations to put America on a wartime terrorist footing on a continuous basis to justify handing over authority to a wartime government, shadow government on a wartime basis, wartime condition, and that folds us into the global new world order. And that's been going on for quite some time. What the Trump team is doing, and the generals that invited Trump to run, oh, yes, go ahead, that invited Trump to run, are doing is that they are trying to fight this global operation to move America's sovereignty over to international bodies that we don't vote into power, we don't control as American citizens. We're just along for the ride because the decisions are made globally for what we have to do, whether it's take a shot or spend money a certain way, pay a global tax, etc. And in order to do these really, really big things, you need really, really big, ever growing terrorist operations. So when Trump took the teeth out of that Somali terror operation by killing that Somali warlord in a cave in Somalia, within the first weeks of this administration, they started a much bigger war that's almost invisible to the rest of the country, rest of the world. They don't see this subchapter, and it's not able to be discussed, defined well enough to the public to have the huge open conversations, because they haven't even admitted at this point, the public's not quite ready for it yet, that we have an agency of government that its entire purpose for existence is to remove constitutional elected government and force America into a global operation of where our elected people are handling, relatively minor internal stuff. We're going to put new road here. We're going to, put new power system in there. But the bigger decisions of direction of the country as they, for all the things that we would do impacting the world, were almost non-existent as far as our own sovereign control here within the country. Our control is being decided in international bodies, World Economic Forum, 50 other things, that are these global operations, including the money. The money is going to be decided how it's going to be spent. So just so people, so they have a time clock in this phone booth that is right beside me. They repurposed the phone booth, and now it's where the time clock is, and they're changing shifts. They're all coming by me to punch out.
They're waiting for you to finish so they could check out. That's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
we're going to see this continue to escalate because U.S. commandos just recently raided a cargo ship traveling to Iran. So my old brothers, raiding this ship and seized a dual-use technology that was headed for Iran from China.
Yes. Well, and think about that. If you're taking control of Chinese vessels on the open sea, and insured by British insurance companies, by the way, you are really right on the verge of having some kind of a shoot 'em up. And they're not happy about that. Plus, we're cutting off the oil supply coming out of Venezuela. Where's it all going? It's going to China.
Yeah, very good.
So China's cutting off, the rare earth materials coming out of China, silver now being cut off, and you have to remember that's not just because it's coming out of China. China has been sucking up all of the concentrate from mines all over the world, all over Africa, and bringing it into China, and then refining it, and then selling it at moderately high cost, but lower than the cost of production everywhere else. In other words, U.S. mines turned off because you could get it cheaper out of China, and so companies were buying their materials from China. And they did that at a lower cost so that the mines would not be able to be profitable. They all shut down. Then they gutted them. So, for example, uh, uh, one of the mine projects that I'm involved in was mining scheelite, which is what you make tungsten from. And they had this very complex operation to make tungsten. China sent in spies 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And our process, which is a military industrial use material, uh, they figured it out with their spies, multi-step process, how to, capture the tungsten, uh, concentrate it, refine it, everything, which wasn't obvious to other people. It's a very important metal. Once they figured it out, then they went out and captured through economic arrangements the scheelite production in places all over the world, brought the concentrate back to China, and then we're refining it down to high quality tungsten product for export. Most of the companies in America getting tungsten are getting it out of China or subsidiaries of Chinese operations. All of our tungsten operations in the U.S. all shut down, all of them, nothing working. Literally, when you walked into the buildings, 3 and 4 years ago when we were getting ready to start things back up, when they shut down the operation years ago, when China announced that they had the materials that can be bought on the open market, tungsten materials, and Union Carbide had these mines, huge monster company. They just shut them down. People came to work. They worked their first shift, and they got the word that here's your pink slip. Call the unemployment office. You can get your employment checks in 2 weeks because you weren't fired for a problem. You're being laid off, and the coffee was still in the cups. Half drinking can of Coke. Security came through and escorted out of buildings. All of the plans, all of the projects for the day were right there laying on the tables, opened up right to the last place where they were at when they were working. It was just a time machine. You walk in, all the showers, all the cleanup areas, things just left right where they're at, walked away, time ended, stopped right then and there. China captured mining of numerous very important strategic materials in a similar way uh, in operations around the world, and then moved all that concentrate from all these different areas, South America, Africa, other locations, straight to China, refined it, and then sold the product cheaper than the cost of production was here in the US. So nobody would ever compete with them because you couldn't make any money. They subsidized it to make sure it stayed cheap. Now that we're getting ready to go to war with China on lots of levels, that's part of the purpose of the tariffs, is to not allow cheap to come in and compete with local, because it's not actually cheap. It costs us way more money in lots of other areas, including the other technologies and like that. So by putting up a firewall, we're putting up a firewall of price against a Chinese military machine that is keeping us from making our own products and being healthy at home and employing our own people instead of slave labor in China. And at the end of the day, who's running all that? It's being run and financed by banks out of the city of London, the city within the city, and globalists running primarily out of England, but also managing the rest of Europe to keep the world on a wartime footing, industrial, etc. So you don't stop that. It's like being in a spin with an aircraft. The way to get out of the spin, or a car that's sliding on ice, you have to turn into the direction of the slide. You have to turn your control surfaces into the direction of the spin. Get airflow over those surfaces, get the tires rolling with the direction the car's going, not skidding, and then try to turn out of the slide, to turn out of the spin. And that's what Trump is doing. Instead of fighting the war machine, we're taking control of it. So Saudi Arabia, you want to spend money on arms? Okay, you can spend it with us. Qatar, if you want to spend money on arms, you got to spend it with us. All these other countries that have money for different reasons, oil, whatever, they got to turn and spend it with us. Now you get to Venezuela, and China has captured control of Venezuela. They've captured control of America through the vote and the vote machine stuff that's done out of Venezuela moved into other locations. Again, by the way, who is really running even Venezuela? It's not the Chinese, it's the bankers out of City of London, because they're financing these movements and insuring a lot of these movements. So you're fighting a banker class, this globalista class, that you think it's China. It's not China. It's being run by globalists run out of Western Europe. And they want the war. They want the war to take out Russia because they want to control energy flow into Western Europe for the next 100 years. And they're doing the same thing with South America, all across Asia. It's not just China. It's China's masters out of the City of London. That's what Trump and team are fighting, the generals behind Trump. You know, Trump is the legal side as the elected representative of the people, so that the generals, the 200 that invited him to run, would not be able to be charged with a coup, a violation of international law. It's the will of the people to do this. And now what Trump's getting ready to do and what's getting ready to be done right in the open for the American public is the signing of this national emergency regarding how our elections are conducted. And then the other side of that is the other leg that we're going to all stand on is the monetary. We're going to return from hypothecated paper money and paper silver. Remember all the silver market when I called the close of the silver window in England, a decade and a half ago. Weeks, 6 weeks in advance, they did it publicly. And I said, they're not running the price of silver to the moon. And a bunch of people came out, buy silver, buy silver, buy silver. Says it's not going to the moon. I said it a million times. Go talk to V, the guerrilla economist. He'll tell you, I was so precise. I said, they're going to churn silver. I talked to large investment groups, unions for particular employees, a particular very, very, very large union. And said, you need to, if you're going to buy and hold gold or silver, you need to do that with a trading strategy that sells and buys within the puts and calls futures in a trading range, because they're just going to churn silver predominantly and generate paper silver that's not real silver, and they're going to keep trading the paper silver and keep it in the range. That's exactly what happened up until 2023. And then they began to industrial demand and other things within the banking world. Certain banks began to accumulate the physical silver and hoard physical silver, but continue to trade paper silver and create paper silver monetary instruments, but not backed by any real silver. It was just hypothecated. Now what you're seeing in this squeeze that's going on right now is that the demand for the physical to be taken physical possession of is driving up prices, because there isn't the physical in existence to meet all of these paper demands. Now the paper stuff expires, most of it, because they're options to purchase silver at a future date, and they've been selling silver with the intent to fill those orders with silver, at low prices and suppress it, a paper chase. That's coming to an end, and now real demand for silver, mostly driven by industrial demand, which you don't have that with gold. It's not an industrial material, so the gold and silver don't really equate. You can use gold like you use for silver, but the cost is so much higher. And you can use some platinum and palladium for similar purposes, and the cost is a lot higher currently, so it's not as effective as silver. So silver is where the whole game is at in a technologically advancing world, and that's not changing anytime soon. So, yeah.
So before, I know we're probably getting close to your time. You need to like check out of here, but I did a research on President Trump's mom, the clan McLeod.
Yeah.
And they have a bull as their symbol, and I know you have the MAGA where he's fighting the bull. So I think it's pretty interesting. Did you realize that there was a connection there?
Well, I did, and here's an interesting thing. You could say that it was planned. You could say it was like so many things in life. All of a sudden, when you start a particular direction, there's a symbiotic thing. Things come out of the blue and sometimes fit in, especially if you're on the right track. And so it wasn't precisely something that I worked around, but I was aware early on that that was there within what the Trump clan had. And I think there's a kind of a symbiotic thing that somewhere in time, history, space, whatever, it works. So, and of course, the whole point for those that might not be aware. So I portrayed Trump as the Megador, taking on the deep state bull, and as the Megador, and by the way, bullfighting is messy business. I'm here in Italy right now, and of course, bullfighting in Spain, and you actually had it here in parts of Italy and things like that for eons. The bullfight, as messy as it is, there's important symbology. It goes back to the second oldest story that we have in cuneiform writing, which is the tale of Gilgamesh, and a bull dropped out of heaven. And then this king of this city state had to go out and fight it because it was destroying everything in the region. And then another competing city state king who was an adversary, they both realize they've got a common adversary that they need to join forces on. So even though they're competing enemies, they close ranks and they go after the bull. And so this other king works to weaken the bull around the shoulders and the neck. And as you weaken the bull with this acting like a toreador, with the hooks trying to grab and tear at the muscles at the neck and the shoulders, the bull's head, when he comes out to fight initially, you'll see like the Lamborghini has a bull. And in the imagery on the car, the Lamborghini car, the bull's head is up and it's prancing. As the bullfight goes on, the bulls are not marathon runners, and they only have so many charges in them. They tire extremely easy because you're moving a ton of mass, trying to move at high speed, etc. They just, they can only do it so long, and so they get tired, and especially around the head and neck. It gets lower and lower and lower, and so the head drops lower. As the head drops lower, the shoulder blades widen out. And the thing about fighting a bull in a bullfight like that, you can't run the sword through the breastplate. You can't really get them easy around the neck and get a clean kill. They'll come back and trample you to death. They get a second life at some point with adrenaline like that. So you weaken the bull's head gets lower and lower and lower. And that's the most dangerous moment in the bullfight. because as the head gets lower, instead of charging you, he gets right up next to you, and then he's turning his head back and forth, and they'll catch a bullfighter with the horns in the legs, and then they flip them and do whatever. They'll break a femoral artery, and you're dead in under a minute. You bleed out almost instantaneously. And so you're unconscious in 20, 30 seconds. And that's the most dangerous part of a bullfight. Well, we're in that phase right now with Trump and team against these deep state monsters. Their head is getting lower and lower as the shoulder blades open up. You have to get close enough to the bull that you can drive the sword in between the backbone and the shoulder blade all the way down to the heart. And it's open right through there. You'll see when you look at, cattle or bulls and like that, and how that skin just kind of stretches out across between the shoulder blades. When they're down, head down to feeding, it opens up and you can see it's just like a flat open spot there. And so you have to, that's your strategy in a bullfight. Weaken it, get it to charge you over and over and over and over again till it's so weak that you can get right up next to it. And then a bullfighter will literally leap in the air and power that sword down to the heart. If you miss, if that bull gets its head around, catches you with a horn, you're dead.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're at that point right now, taking on the deep state bull. And by the way, the governor of Colorado holding Tina Peters hostage there in Colorado, he's born under the sign of Taurus the bull.
Yeah.
So Trump is engaging symbolically the bull right there at the center of the whole fight in Colorado with the governor of Colorado in this sense. So pretty interesting, fun stuff.
Yeah, very amazing. And so people can reach you, the Gen Mac store, and also now to get to Gumroad, what I do is I put Gumroad and I put Juan, and then it brings it up. So I just purchased because I'm like, oh, Juan still has a really good price here. It's probably not. I went and bought your 10-pack in there. So I was like, because I'm not really into. At one point when I was younger, I was as a boy I was a collector all the way up until the big blow off in 2011. I sold a lot of my silver, knowing that it was time for it to go because I've been following silver, like I said, like a little boy. And so I knew that we're going into several years ago, like yourself, that we were going into another blow off, and it's going to last a long time, like you're saying. It's going to continually go up. But yeah, I was like, yep, Juan hasn't take these prices higher, but I love those coins. Those are the most beautiful coins, collected coins, and you have a really good price. You guys better get in there and get it before it goes up again.
Well, the one thing is, in fact, while we were on the horn, I had staff that wanted to up the price, and I had asked them to be available to do that on Gumroad and on Jen's site. And so, yes, it's a good price for the moment. I probably won't get it up until sometime tomorrow as far as the prices. You got a window to take advantage of the fact that I've been so busy and traveling and on planes like that. Since the Friday close, silver was up over 10% just on Friday, almost 11%. And it probably will gap up on Monday, just so people and it starts Sunday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. What will probably happen is the same thing that's happened the last 4 trading sessions. Normally on Friday, the big traders come in and they knock the price down on silver. And so you'd see the price come down so that everybody can sleep over the weekend. What's happened the last several trading Fridays is silver is closed significantly higher than what it opened on Friday. Now you have banks that are forcing their customers, traders that are forcing their customers to either throw a huge amount of cash in to cover their long positions
Margin.
or sell them off, and they have no choice over it. It's just sold. The bank takes over, sells the position to reduce exposure, and you just get a bill. I remember once when Microsoft was doing something, and I thought I had the right information and direction on what was going to happen. And so I'd made a particular trade on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it in a puts and calls thing, and it went against me. And literally, they got on the phone with me, said that I had 24 hours to cover that position, or they were going to close out my entire portfolio to cover that, and I was done. And that would have cost me tremendously. Well, when the brokerage tells you that's what's going on, that's what's going on. You don't have any choice if you're trading on a margin. And so I covered that particular one, and then by the following about 2 weeks later, I was in great shape.
Nice.
But for that tight little window, they weren't going to be exposed. They're not there to gamble. I was gambling, they weren't. And so a lot of these positions on the silver are margin positions. And with it closing up as dramatically as it did Friday, there hasn't been enough time yet to reconcile that within accounts. And people have to come up with serious big money to cover some of their long positions. So what'll happen is the bank will come in, liquidate other positions that people have, and they will buy silver at whatever the cost is. So when I saw this last weekend, I told a number of people I mentioned in shows that I expected silver to gap up when the trading opened on Monday, which was actually Sunday afternoon. Asia is when it really opens. That I expected it to gap up pretty high right off the bat. And in fact, it did. It broke up. Yes, go ahead, sir. It broke up $5 almost instantly when the trades open. This week could be even more. It could open, and within just minutes of the opening, be up to $90 an ounce for silver instead of in the high 70s. Because those positions, nobody was anticipating as much of a jump as it did. So people that are trading on margins, it's so far out of what was anticipated for most of traders that the banks will close those positions to reduce exposure instantly and just take it whatever price they have. And everybody behind the scenes knows that from an industrial side, the various manufacturers have such an urgent demand for real silver, not paper silver, that they're going for deliveries. They want silver in their hand, in possession. They're going to pay whatever price it is because you can't have $1 billion factory sitting idle over a few, $1 million worth of difference in the price of silver, that you have available. You can't have whole factories sitting idle over a few $1 million when the factory has $1 billion operation. So they'll pay whatever price they gotta pay. Now you could have some arbitrage that's happened over the weekend to try and take the wind out of the sails, behind the scenes backdoor deals. That's some of what happened with actually purchasing mine production of several mines in Mexico and Peru over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
But we're in uncharted territory. As a general rule, silver is going to go up radically from here. Will it do so on Monday? Probably. There's a bunch of positions closing at the end of the year, midweek, and so I expect silver to still continue its climb. The next checkpoint for most people, it's like 90 or 100. No, it's probably 100 to 125. Is the next stable point, and who knows how long that'll last. As it gets higher and higher, the pain will get great enough that a lot of the jewelry traders and things like that will go away. Even the speculators will be pushed off only the people with industrial need will continue to play this game or even have the force of will to do so. But it's a survival thing for production. We're in a militarized environment that's becoming more militarized by the day. You
Yeah.
need silver. Prices is going higher.
So
I don't know if people wanted to hear that involved of a conversation, but I'm just trying to, for
Oh,
people who are trying to do the mental gymnastics, I'm trying to give you some of the basics.
yeah, definitely. Well, Juan, thanks so much for coming in and sharing your insights. Always, always amazing insights. So, we appreciate it. The links will be in the description box for you guys that want to, tap into that. Those low
Yeah,
prices.
don't buy any silver over at Gumroad or of it thejennifermack.com because you're taking advantage of it. So don't buy any now while I'm preoccupied. Wait until Monday night, please. Just wait till Monday night and then buy some more. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Juan. Thanks so much and
All
enjoy
right.
your